Charter California Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance. Our guest, Mike Gardner. He is a member of the Riverside City Council. And, sir, I recently upgraded my phone, and my wife said, why don't we go to one of those machines where you can turn on your old phone and get some cash? And it makes sense to me, but then you indicated to me there are some serious problems, or potential problems, I should say, with what we know as eco-ATMs. Why don't you talk to us about that?
Well, eco-ATM is a company that was founded with really good intentions.
Okay.
They do recycle or repurpose any telephones or tablets that they take in.
Right. These are cell phones, for example, or old iPads, or whatever it may be.
Right. They don't do laptops or desktop computers, but other smaller electronic devices, primarily cell phones.
And you see these eco-ATMs, we'll call them, at malls. No one's there. You simply insert the old phone. Right. You're supposed to provide an ID, and you get money right back.
Yes.
So what's the question, though? What's the issue that has been presented before Riverside?
The difficulty is that the protection system that is in place isn't adequate to really prove that you are who you say you are when you show up to sell a phone, or that it's your phone that you're selling.
So your sense is it's possible that someone could just nab a phone, quickly run to one of those eco-ATMs, get cash, and the phone is gone.
It's not just possible, it happens on too frequent a basis. And I don't mean to be critical of the company. They mean well, that their technology just isn't quite good enough yet to provide the protections that Riverside would like to see.
And I understand the Today Show did, we'll call it a sting. Why don't you tell us about the Today Show sting?
They had a couple of their producers, both women, both dark-haired, but other than that, they did not look much alike. They swapped IDs and went to an eco-ATM and were able to sell a device, that's a cell phone.
That wasn't theirs, right.
Yeah. When their ID did not match them, and they really don't look very much alike.
What's supposed to happen is the device, the eco-ATM, will scan the serial number and presumably try to match it?
Well, they I believe after the fact, they report, if they have a report that that a serial number is stolen, they'll say, we have that phone, and they'll give it back to the owner.
But that doesn't seem like a great economic model for them, because they've paid cash right out of the box.
Yeah, they're out cash if that happens, but they try to identify the person who is selling the device in the first place.
I understand.
With an ID, and they do take a thumbprint, but you can fool it. And
do they make a criminal reference? Do you know if there seems to be shenanigans?
There is no way to. That's one of the problems. Technology doesn't allow an immediate check of that thumbprint. Is this a wanted person?
Interesting. Okay, so Riverside has taken a very bold stand.
We actually banned the technology, an unstaffed kiosk, in our city. We were the first in the country to do it.
Wow.
Baltimore, Maryland has subsequently adopted a ban. Washington, D.C. is considering one. Atlanta, Georgia is in the process of doing it. About a month ago.
How did it come to your attention, or the council's attention? Are you aware?
Yes, we had a series of strong-arm and armed robberies of students around our UCR campus. And they were taking primarily cell phones and laptops from people.
And there was a sense that they were then running to these eco-ATMs.
Or yes, that's one of the places they can go. And the concern is not, that you should recycle the device at all.
Right.
That's good, but not having a warm body there checking and buying the phone.
So has the company come out and said anything? I mean, this is really tough on their
It is.
On their business.
They came to our hearing when we adopted the ordinance and tried to explain, or did explain, how they work and how they try to keep problems from happening. And the council's reaction was, you just aren't quite far enough yet. Come back when your technology is better and we'll rescind it.
And what technology, what do you hope to see before you would be willing to vote to rescind the ordinance?
I'd like to see a technology where you can't fool it. I don't know if that means more people watching transactions. They do have a center where they're able to actually watch live a transaction as it occurs, but obviously it's not working.
That's your sense.
I mean, it's a pure fact.
Okay.
It just isn't. It isn't foolproof. I think it may work most of the time, But cell phone theft is a growing issue, and if we can, take away an easy way to dispose of a stolen phone, we'd like to do that.
I want to shift gears, if I may. I know that you are the chair of the California Earthquake
Seismic Safety Commission.
Thank you, California Seismic Safety Commission. And recently, the state of California passed a law. It was signed by the governor.
It was.
And it deals with an earthquake early warning or alert system. We know that many cities or countries, states, country, whatever it is, have such systems. I think Mexico City has one. They exist in Japan. What exactly are early warning systems?
It's a series of monitors on the ground that pick up the first shaking from an earthquake. And there are two sets of waves that come from an earthquake. There's a P wave and an S wave.
Whatever that means.
Yes. It's just the differentiation between them. But one travels faster, and the other, the more damaging one, travels slower. So if you are away from the epicenter of a large earthquake, you can get some warning from that first wave that that intense shaking is coming.
And I understand the warning can be 30 seconds, maybe even 60 seconds. And I believe in Japan, with the Sendai earthquake, their warning system did go off, and there were benefits for it.
There were. They absolutely can have benefits. You can stop moving trains. You can stop elevators.
Get out of an elevator, whatever it may be.
You can open fire station doors. All those kinds of things. You can get, people can duck and cover. It's a life-saving kind of a warning.
Presumably, this bill would be welcome. The early warning bill.
Yeah, it is absolutely welcome.
But there's some issues with it in your mind.
The problem is there's no funding that's identified as yet, and the bill actually prohibits using state general fund dollars. So it's good that we're moving toward an early alert system, but...
Is this an unfunded mandate on the counties, or who's supposed to implement it?
It will be implemented in kind of a partnership between the state and the federal government. USGS has the lead on it right now, but they're working with the Seismic Safety Commission, with the university system. There are a variety of parties involved. None of them have adequate funding. The hope is that having the bill in place will increase awareness and develop a funding source, whether it's state or federal or a mix.
I could say this is a bit of a surprise that there's no dedicated funding for this, because we know what happens with a natural disaster. We know what just happened in Colorado with the rains. We know what happened in Louisiana with Hurricane Katrina. And those are weather-related events. But if we have an earthquake in Northern California, we can see a Hurricane Katrina type of incident with levees breaking. And so where's the urgency on this question?
My own opinion is that most California citizens, while they recognize there is a threat from earthquakes and they really believe that one will happen someday, it's just not a priority for them. Someday is too far away.
And why was there a prohibition against general fund money being spent? Do you know?
The legislature placed that there, I think partly because the state's general fund, while it's in better shape than it was, is still not really robust, and the future finances of the state are still a bit of a challenge.
Do we know how much this will cost? I mean, we are a big state, 38 million people, huge geography.
The projection is about $80 million to complete the system and get it up and running.
Which, in the scheme of things, doesn't seem that much. In the scheme of things.
Compared to...
And how is it that little? I mean, we have major cities. We have, San Francisco, San Diego, Riverside, San Bernardino, LA, Sacramento. I mean...
Well, the $80 million only puts the system in place and broadcasts a warning. What you do with it after that at the local level is another cost.
Okay, so we need to look into it. Will you come back and discuss this issue?
Absolutely.
That'd be great. Okay, his name is Mike Gardner. He's a member of the Riverside City Council, also chair of California's Seismic Safety Commission. I'm Brad Pomerance. It's Charter, California Edition. Welcome back to Charter California Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance. Our guest, Kevin Bash, he's a member of the Norco City Council running for re-election. That election will be held on November 5th. And I want to speak with you most generally about Norco for our viewers statewide. Tell us about beautiful Norco.
Well, Norco is known as Horsetown, USA.
It is.
It's the last city in the state of California. By law, you got to build on a half acre or more just for large animal keeping. We have 140 miles of trails. More open space and parkland per capita than any city in Riverside County. We're very, very, very proud of Norco.
And I understand that as part of your platform, both currently and through your re-elect, you're looking to protect that large animal keeping lifestyle. You want to make sure that that's part of the Norco way of life.
The issue that we have is that developers want to come in and they see all those big open lots and they want to put 8, 9, 10 houses on them, and we have resisted it. In fact, next year is our 50th anniversary as a city. And in the beginning, they said we'd never survive because of the large lots, because it generates very little property tax.
Of course. At the same time, I was recently in Norco, and wow, what a beautiful community that is developing nicely in terms of retail. It's not as if that you're overdeveloping, but clearly Norco is on the move when you look at retail development. Am I right?
Oh yeah, when I got on council, we try to find businesses that will support our lifestyle.
Right.
And we've been really lucky. We've been very aggressive. We're bringing in Hobby Lobby, Tractor Supply, Winco, Easy Up.
Right, but some nice restaurants too.
Oh, some nice restaurants, and we have a lot more interest. We have Fairfield Inn that's going in.
Nice.
And then, of course, the Silver Lakes Project, which is massive.
And what's the Silver Lakes Project, remind us?
What that is it's going to be the largest equestrian/soccer park in California.
My.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you're pairing equestrian with soccer. How's that going to work?
Well, the soccer pays for the equestrian. It's based on the model of the Oaks that's in San Juan Capistrano, where for years they've done the model of high-end equestrian and coupled it with soccer, high-end soccer. Not AYSO, nothing wrong with AYSO, but it's for club.
And then no problem.
Yeah.
Now, do you have an auto mall currently in Norco?
We do, and in fact, when I got on council, it was decimated.
Really?
And we now have one spot left, and we have a lot of interest in that, and we have pretty much filled it. But the thing with the auto mall is in terms of economic development, we don't want to put all our eggs in one basket.
Right.
For many years, that was our primary source of income,
Right.
and I really worked hard to try to change that.
And I do want to talk about economic development, because there's no doubt that Riverside County had suffered during the economic downturn, and some sister cities, in this region, San Bernardino went bankrupt, different county, but still, how has Norco been able to weather the storm so well?
Well, you're absolutely right. Riverside County, even now, getting funding for projects is very difficult. What we did was we downsized from 104 employees to 48.
Wow.
We consolidated departments. We moved from our own fire department because of the unfunded liabilities. You have to pay $250,000 per disability claim, and we moved over to CAL FIRE. And we literally cut our budget of 70% of our budget to public safety to 52%. So we have made great savings.
And do you work with Riverside Sheriff, or do you have your own
Yeah,
department?
we are their first contract city. We're very proud of them. We're very proud of CAL FIRE. We're proud to be representative, and it's money well spent.
And so as we look forward, are you seeing a bright fiscal future?
Next year, who's ever on council is going to look like a genius. I mean,
Because
all the sales tax revenue is going to start hitting Norco.
Right, because of all the retail development we've discussed. Interestingly, Norco's been in the news statewide because as you know, there's a prison crisis in our state, and there is a federal court that is demanding that we decrease our prison population.
Right.
As we speak today, there may be some wiggle room. There was a recent order where the governor was given a 1-month extension, but we'll see what happens. Be that as it may, Norco has had a facility that housed inmates that was set to close and now it won't, or was it already mothballed?
No, the California Rehabilitation Center was a minimum security prison that was set to close because it's the most expensive prison in the system to run. It's very antiquated. It's essentially a Navy hospital completed in 1947 with wire around it. They felt that was not a place to keep prisoners. So they were going to close it in 2016.
So it's still, before we get to the punchline, it has still been operating. Is that accurate?
Still operating.
So and, so,
and so anyway, what we were going to do is we had an exit strategy, because in the middle of it is this incredible Norconian resort and these beautiful naval hospital buildings constructed for the hospital. A chapel, a gymnasium, beautiful concrete, wonderful buildings. Now they're going to stay.
It's staying open.
Staying open, but what we're going to do now is we're really working hard to get them to repair the roof of the old Norconian. And as a Navy hospital from World War II, it's the last standing World War II naval hospital in existence, and as such, that sucker is going to go on the National Register of Historic Places.
Wow, congratulations. Yeah. I have to think that those in Norco probably have mixed feelings about the maintenance of this facility, because on the one hand, who wants a prison in your backyard? On the other hand, employees working at the jail, they're going to lunch, they're eating at restaurants in Norco. So
it's 110 acres with the Mission Inn on a hill overlooking a lake on 300 acres. I figure the prison generates maybe $250,000 a year to our coffers. Yeah. What would a facility like the one I just described generate?
So when you look towards the future, it may be that
I believe the prison's going to close. It is going to close. There's no matter what, it's going to close. It's too antiquated. But in the meantime, the goal now is to preserve that beautiful building so that when it does close, whether it's 1 year, 2 year, above my pay grade,
right.
We are able it won't be destroyed by water infiltrating it.
So do you have a sense as to whether you can work with the state to get that roof repaired?
Oh, you know what? We are working with Deborah Heisen at the Department of Corrections. We talk to her every 2 weeks. There's been a whole different approach to the city of Norco. Prior to this, we were banging our heads against the wall. They are going to allow us to go in and try to fix that roof. The chapel, the stained glass is commemorative of fallen soldiers. It's beautiful, built in 1944.
Speaking of fallen soldiers,
yes.
Norco is known for its commitment to honor those that have served our nation.
Absolutely.
And I know that coming up on November 9th, there will be a touching event. It's at the old Navy base in Norco. Why don't you tell us about that November 9th?
November 9th, we're going to have a USO dance with Bob Hope as the
right.
MC,
exactly.
who, by the way, was at that Navy base many, many times entertaining.
Yeah, I think I knew that, actually.
Yeah, and
so should we dress in our 40s garb?
You dress in your 40s garb, and John Tavallone, Supervisor Tavallone, is going to bring his band, and he's going to play.
Fantastic.
And so it's going to be a great time. It's to raise money for the George Allen Ingalls Memorial Plaza.
Tell us about it.
And he is a Norconian who received the Medal of Honor in Vietnam. I don't know if you know this, but Norco is the first city in the state of California that's part of the Vietnam Commemorative Partner Program, second in the nation. Wow, I didn't know that. And we're very patriotic, but this is to raise money for that plaza, which
does not exist yet.
Doesn't exist. We got the spot, and we have, Norconians are turning out to volunteer their services to help build it. We're very close to getting it funded, it appears. But it's to commemorate all veterans, but specifically Georgie. I grew up with him.
Yes.
And then
is he still with us?
No, Medal of Honor.
We lost him
he died in Vietnam.
Okay.
He jumped on a grenade twice. First time didn't go off. Very wonderful person.
You literally grew up with him.
My brothers played basketball with him. Wow. And but we have lost 22 boys, 1 girl to war. And then at Naval Hospital, between 2,000 and 5,000 people died there. And you know what? They're just being forgotten, and that's just wrong.
And this was a naval hospital used during World War II.
During World War II, yeah. In fact, it was the largest one in the nation. It was actually 3 hospitals. The groundbreaking stuff that happened there was just amazing. First wheelchair basketball was there to get guys out of had bed sores to get them, out playing.
And I also know coming up on December 7th is your annual Pearl Harbor Remembrance, is that right?
Yeah, we partner with the Navy, and we have for 7 years. The first time I put it up, I thought, well, nobody's going to show up, and the reason we did it was the first patients at the hospital came from Pearl Harbor. Well, the room was packed.
Think about that. That it truly is historic.
Yeah, that's right.
In good old Norco, Horstown, USA, a lot of history occurred.
That's right.
So how can we find out about the November 9th event and the December 7th event?
What you do is you go to www.lakenorconianclub.org.
Got it. And for both events, there will be that information?
For both events, they're the sponsors.
So as we conclude, I'm sure your walk-in precincts, how's it going?
You know what? I seem to kind of be ahead of the game. We've had a couple of debates, and they have gone very, very well.
I hope so.
It's a challenging year. See you later.
His name is Kevin Bash. He is a member of the Norco City Council. He's running for re-election. That election is held on November 5th. Be sure to vote. My name is Brad Pomerance. When we come back, we'll be speaking with Adam Rush. He's the Mayor Pro Tem of Eastvale. I'm Brad Pomerance. It's Charter California Edition. Charter California edition. Welcome back. I'm Brad Pomerance. Our guest is Adam Rush. He is the mayor pro tem of Eastvale. And Eastvale is a newer city. It's facing some challenges because of the fiscal environment in Sacramento. But one challenge I never would have expected Eastvale to face deals with the marijuana industry and its desire to grow marijuana in residential homes.
Correct. Well, we had the foreclosure crisis. Everybody knows about that.
It's part of Riverside County.
Correct, and we got hit very hard. So that turned into a lot of companies, a lot of offshore and out-of-state companies buying up these houses, renting them out, large amounts of inventory, absentee landlords, and that has created another ripple effect of drug traffickers coming in with the large houses, and the close-knit, compact issue of the city renting out a lot of houses and basically cultivating marijuana for your typical drug trafficking.
But it's remarkable how they do it. I know you've been inside these homes. NBC, KNBC recently did a story on it. Explain what happens in these homes.
It's amazing, and I've always said if they put their mind to something legitimate, they'd be successful. But they bypass thousands of dollars of electricity a month. They essentially jerry-rig everything. They clean out the house. They take down load-bearing walls, and they build shelving and scaffolding throughout a 4,000 square foot house. They can fit thousands of plants in these houses. They wall off everything, illegal electrical, illegal plumbing, illegal structural changes to the house, and they can produce about $1 million worth of marijuana in about 6 months out of this house. And they rent multiple houses at a time, and they cultivate it, and then they drive it out to wherever they sell it.
And how did Eastvale become aware that this was happening?
We became aware of it little by little. The feds, the DEA, and the FBI came in, and they didn't tell us, but they were doing a sting in the area, and another one popped up, and then we finally realized after a period of about 3 or 4 months that this was a serious problem. The individuals that they had arrested basically said, we haven't even nicked the surface yet, that there are so many in Eastvale, and so we put forth a all-points effort through media, through ordinances, through law enforcement.
What's remarkable is the city's only 56,000 people, only 14 square miles. So to think that with the arrests that have been netted, that the arrestees are saying you don't even know what's out there.
Correct, yes.
It's disturbing.
And we only have about 1,000 rental homes of about 22,000. So it's such a small percentage, but it's such a concentrated public safety issue.
And so I know Eastvale is attempting to combat this problem, defeat this problem, by passing an ordinance. It's a unique one. Tell us about that.
It is fairly unique. A couple other cities in California have tried it or are in the process of doing a similar ordinance, or have already passed those. A couple in Riverside County, City of Hemet is looking for their ordinance recently. We have put together an inspection ordinance. So it focuses on rental properties. That is the bulk of the issue. That is the entirety of the issue. All of these have been rental properties where you have to register as a business, and then you have to be subject to an inspection by the city. If you can clear inspection for a couple years and you're on board, we don't get any complaints, then we will leave you alone. That has unfortunately garnered some opposition from different stakeholders in the community.
But I understand the ordinance has passed, or is it, as we speak today, pending?
It is in the process of passing, so it's going through the review process right now. It is not final. We expect it to be effective by the end of the year.
Okay, let's shift gears if we may. As I mentioned, there have been tremendous fiscal challenges for Eastvale, one of 4 new cities that launched within the last 5 years or so. All of them, interestingly, are in the Inland Empire.
Yes.
And through the fiscal crisis facing Sacramento, the politicians there decided that new cities would not be eligible to receive what's known as VLF, or vehicle license fees. The challenge was that for many of these new cities, they were relying upon the VLF revenue to keep their budget intact.
Yes.
Their budgets intact. And so where do we stand on this issue? There have been many attempts to try to remedy this through the legislative process, but as we speak today, it hasn't happened.
No, it hasn't happened. And not to be too cliche, but I feel like this is deja vu all over again. We were at the same point last year. We're at the same point again. We had legislation. It failed in this legislative session. We've received a lot of good feelings from the governor's office. Yes, we will help you. We'll take care of you. At this point, nothing has come to fruition. And The city of Eastvale is not going to thrive, but we're not going to die with this legislation not passing. Unfortunately, other cities may not be as lucky.
We have heard very specific rumors that of the 4 cities that launched, 2 of them are heading towards disincorporation.
Correct.
Harupa Valley and, is it Menifee?
Wildemar.
Wildemar. Harupa Valley and Wildemar are on their way to disincorporation. What's so interesting, you had informed me that in order for a city to be disincorporated, the voters need to vote.
They do.
To disband, but they just voted to create themselves.
They did.
What would happen if the voters vote against disincorporation?
Unfortunately, no one knows. It's a situation that has never happened in the state of California. If the voters decide not to go back to the county, to stay a city, we're in this quagmire of they're still a legal entity, but they have no money for public safety, for fire,
Right.
for sheriff, for any services.
Could they not file bankruptcy to
They can't.
Because?
You have to have debt. You have to have something outstanding in order to file municipal bankruptcy, like we've seen with
Right.
Other cities in California, Stockton and San Bernardino. They're not in that situation. They just don't have any
They
money.
have no cash, so they don't have creditors. I mean, it's not as if their pension obligations are too heavy because they contract out, I presume.
Contract out. There's no pension obligations. There's zero debt. There's no outstanding bond obligations. They just don't have the money
Cash
that
flow.
they relied on when the state took that away.
So why is it that Eastvale and presumably Menifee are not looking at disincorporation?
There is a substantial difference in demographics and location and in the way that those communities were planned. For my city, Eastvale specifically, it was planned to be a master plan community, all-inclusive. It's tightly compacted. We have put together a strong economic effort to attract businesses of all types.
And I know you've opened to several businesses recently. I mean, just to mention a few. Pretty Kitty, Riverside Medical Clinic, the Learning Experience, Waba Grill. I mean, you're constantly opening new businesses.
And trying to get diversity too, so people don't go out of the city to shop and get those services that they don't have in the city.
And with new businesses, that equals more state taxes.
It does.
Now, Harupa Valley, for example, which, do you not border Harupa Valley?
We share a freeway border,
Yeah,
yes.
I mean, that's what's so interesting is that you literally are next door to each other. Give us some distinctions between Eastvale and Harupa Valley because I understand they are palpable.
Yeah, exactly. 14 square miles versus 48 square miles.
Okay.
56,000 residents versus almost 100. They are much larger. They have a larger population and an older population to take care of. They have large spans of area that they need to serve. Driving distance just for police vehicles and fire vehicles, that creates cost. They have a lot of services that they need to provide, and unfortunately, they have not been fortunate enough to have the economic boom that Wildemar, Menifee and Eastvale have had.
And I understand that their crime rate is stubborn,
It is.
to say the least.
Yes.
Whereas Eastvale is not seeing that.
We have our fair share of issues.
You have marijuana rentals, but be
Of
that
course.
as it may.
And we're both served by the same entity. The Riverside Sheriff's Department does a great job. It's just a matter of geography. It's a matter of, our homes are only 11 years old. Their community in some parts is 80 to 100 years old.
So back to the question of VLF. It's like you said, it's deja vu. Every year we think that there's going to be a fix to the VLF so that the 4 new cities are treated just like, I think it's the other 416. How many cities are there?
About that, yeah. Over 400.
Yeah, there's 480 cities, like the other 476. What's the delay? What's the delay? The state budget? I mean, last year you can see Prop 30 hadn't passed, the economy was still suffering, but Prop 30's passed, the economy's doing better. What's the delay?
The governor's,
Hard
that's the $64,000 question. Right. No one really knows. Unfortunately, we think it will take Harupa to actually file, go through the process. Next year is an election year, so we can maybe bank on the politics of the situation. So I think the state's really looking for something serious to happen. Unfortunately, they're going to start driving, cities off the cliff in order to
Let's see what happens. Going. His name is Adam Rush. He is the Mayor Pro Tem of Eastvale, California. My name is Brad Pomerance. It's Charter, California Edition.